More explanation on Ferrari's downward performance. Toto Wolff gives up on the chase for Max Verstappen, but reveals one reason the world champion could switch teams soon, and Max Verstappen to have a warm welcome at the British Grand Prix. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get straight into the latest F1 news. Following another tough race weekend, it's evident that Ferrari is facing a slump in both form and performance. Once a team that seemed capable of challenging the frontrunners, Ferrari's fortunes have taken a nosedive since Leclerc's triumphant home victory in Monaco. Let's delve into Ferrari's journey from that high point, examining the upgrades they've introduced and the key factors contributing to their current struggles. Ferrari began the season strong, emerging as the primary team capable of challenging Max Verstappen and the Redbull squad in the initial races. With a bit of luck, Ferrari secured a victory in Australia, the third race of the season. From then on, their form remained solid, with just a slight gap between them and Red Bull's race pace. Monaco, a track that suits Ferrari's characteristics, saw them win due to excellent car performance and team organization. However, from that point, their fortunes began to decline. Ferrari's best weekend of the season came with the debut of the SF24's B version in Monaco. The car featured completely redesigned side pods, side pod inlets, and a new rear wing, adopting Red Bull's overbite side pod inlet geometry philosophy. As analyzed earlier, this concept allows for much cleaner airflow over the upper surface of the side pods, which can be efficiently directed to critical aerodynamic elements like the diffuser and beam wing. How you manage this region of the car significantly affects the front end, and especially the area under the car. This weekend also marked the first introduction of a new rear wing after using the old design for the previous 7 races. The high downforce rear wing suited the slow Monaco track, and things worked well. After the Monaco race, it seemed Ferrari was on the right track and poised to be a main threat to Red Bull in the upcoming races. However, the next race in Montreal showed the opposite. Although both drivers were unlucky in Canada and failed to finish the race, it was evident that Ferrari struggled with the right car setup. One of the main issues was the slow tire warm-up and a very unstable rear end, costing them significant time on a track like Canada. Barcelona was the next race on the calendar, where we expected to see the true performance not only of Ferrari but of other teams as well. Ferrari's engineers prepared another upgrade package building on the one from Monaco. The most noticeable changes were on the side pods and the undercut region beneath them. Already by then, it was clear that downforce and rear-end balance were what Ferrari lacked. The upgrades aimed to allow more efficient airflow to critical aerodynamic parts around the diffuser and rear suspension. Unfortunately, these changes didn't yield positive results. Performance-wise, Ferrari found themselves not just behind Red Bull, but also behind McLaren and Mercedes. A telling fact was that during the Spanish qualifying, Ferrari's drivers applied the least throttle in the final corner compared to the aforementioned teams. The lack of rear downforce and poor car balance had become significant issues. Additionally, the drivers struggled with quickly warming up the tires at the race start, and overall race pace with high fuel levels was problematic. The agony continued the following weekend in Austria at the Red Bull Ring. It seemed Ferrari was battling the same problems since Canada, with no visible progress. The short time between races during this period left engineers with insufficient time to understand and solve the issues. New aerodynamic upgrades often trigger a chain reaction affecting various other car areas, and managing them directly influences on-track performance. Currently, it seems the engineers are struggling to translate new aerodynamic upgrades effectively to the wheels. This suggests that the suspension system may be disrupting the harmony between the necessary systems for optimal performance. In other words, the downforce is present, but the way the force transfers to the wheels is not optimal. Although Toto Wolff accepts Max Verstappen will probably not join Mercedes next season, he sees no reason. If the Dutchman can get out of his contract, he won't be in Brackley in 2026. Wolff has spent much of this year publicly courting Verstappen to replace Lewis Hamilton, having been left in the lurch by the Briton's decision to sign with Ferrari for next year's championship. Drawing on the tension at Red Bull after Christian Horner was investigated over alleged inappropriate behavior, Wolff has made no secret about believing Mercedes would be a better option for the Dutchman. But he admits it is more of a case of being a better option in time. Today, Red Bull is the team to beat, with Verstappen winning 7 of this year's 11 Grand Prix to sit 81 points ahead of Lando Norris in the drivers' standings. With next year's cars a continuation of this season's, although Red Bull are facing more pressure this year, they will still go into the new season as the favorites as Verstappen chases what will most likely be a fifth world title on the trot. But 2026, that's another story. Formula One is not only putting new cars on the grid, but also new engines, and the last time the latter was changed, it was Mercedes who gained a march on their rivals. It has Wolff declaring Mercedes could be quite attractive to Verstappen come 2026. That's of course he can get out of his Red Bull deal which runs through to 2028. Would Max Verstappen consider joining Mercedes in 2025? No, there is no reason. Why would he? He told Sky F1. The Red Bull car is ultra-dominant. Maybe he's going to win every race and a driver will always seek that kind of machine. That has changed over the last few weeks and months. There are 3 teams that were competing against each other. Hopefully we can demonstrate that we are part of this group now too. So maybe there's a window, but 2026 is our main year where lots of things change, and I think it could be quite attractive to drive with us. But whether it's Max, and whether he can get out of his contract, I don't know. According to widespread reports, there is a clause in Verstappen's contract, and it's linked to Helmut Marko. Should the Motorsport advisor leave the team, Verstappen can too. Wolff, though, can't speak to that, saying he does not know what form it is. But, he continued, I think in any case, if a driver doesn't want to stay somewhere, it's very difficult to keep a driver, but I'm not relying on that. I think most important is to look at ourselves. Quick cars are always going to attract the attention of a quick driver. So that's our main priority. All of these driver movements here is not the end of the story. However, in the wake of Christian Horner celebrating Verstappen's yes during Thursday's driver press conference in Austria when asked if he was staying at Red Bull next season, Helmut Marko has called Wolff's desire to sign the triple world champion nothing but a wish. Speaking to Sky Deutschland, the Red Bull Motorsport advisor said, above all, I think Wolff's wish is the father of the thought. Our starting point has remained unchanged. As long as Red Bull provides Verstappen with a competitive car, and as long as he feels good, there's no reason for him to leave the team. Martin Brundle, though, believes Verstappen to Mercedes is only a matter of time. At some point, I think there's a good chance of that, he said. Nobody's got a crystal ball even available to them for 2026, but my feeling is there's a lot of talk in the paddock that Max can exit and go to Mercedes next year. I think that's receding quite a lot. Then the question is Kimi Antonelli ready to step into that spotlight alongside George at the Mercedes Works team? There's a lot of plates spinning and a lot of balls up in the air. We've got a half dozen drivers who haven't yet sat down, and obviously Carlos Sainz now is the cork in that bottle, assuming Max, of course, is going to be at Red Bull. Despite the heightened emotions, Olaf Mull has advised Lando Norris and Max Verstappen to settle their disagreement privately before it escalates into a tense situation at Silverstone. During the Austrian Grand Prix, Norris and Verstappen's relationship, as well as their cars, suffered a blow when they collided while vying for the lead. Norris attempted to overtake Verstappen on the outside of Turn 3, but Verstappen moved left to block, resulting in contact that led to Norris retiring and Verstappen finishing P5 after receiving a 10-second penalty for causing the collision. In the aftermath, Norris expressed a desire for Verstappen to take responsibility, or else he hinted that it would affect his respect for Verstappen. However, Verstappen sarcastically questioned the penalty, but later mentioned that he and Norris would talk about it at the right time. With the next F1 race at Silverstone, a location where Verstappen has faced hostility in the past during the 2021 title battle with Lewis Hamilton, Dutch pundit Mal has urged them to settle their issues in private. He emphasized the importance of presenting a peaceful image to the public in England to avoid a potentially hostile situation. Lewis Decker from NOS doesn't expect a quick resolution in the relationship following Sunday's incident. He mentioned that there was a standoff between Norris and Verstappen, where they didn't interact and didn't travel back together. Verstappen may have felt sorry for Norris not scoring any points in Austria, according to pundit Jan Lammers. Lammers mentioned that Verstappen was likely happy with his fifth-place finish, but sympathized with Norris as a friend, and felt bad that Norris didn't earn any points. Lammers also lamented the negative comments directed at Verstappen. Thanks for watching the video. See you in the next one.